The sitting is now resumed. Honourable Member for City of Bridgetown.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the House be suspended for 15 minutes until 9:30 p.m.
Beg to second that, sir.
The question is that this Honourable House be suspended until 9:30 p.m. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it. This Honourable House is suspended until 9:30 p.m. This sitting is resumed.
Continuation of government business, sir. Order number 11, in the name of the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, to move the second reading, Caribbean Community Amendment Bill 2019.
Honorable Member for St. James North.
Sheffield, yeah. Your Honor, I am honored to present to this Parliament an amendment to the Caribbean Community Act. The Caribbean Community Act was passed by this Parliament in 2004. I believe that it came into effect in January 2005. And of course, this would have been part of a suite of legislation passed as well in other CARICOM communities to give effect to arrangements made under the Caribbean single market and economy, and to, of course, bring our trade and economic regime in closer contact with each other. Of course, over the that particular act spoke to 5 categories of skilled nationals who would have, as of right, been allowed entry to work in a fellow CARICOM state, which was party to the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. Those original 5 categories of workers would have included, as you know, Mr. Speaker, university graduates, graduates of the University of the West Indies, the 4 campuses of the university would have included musicians and artisans as well. Since that time, those 5 categories of persons have been expanded, I believe first to 7 and then to 10, and most recently to 12 to include agricultural workers. Now also includes domestics who have CVQs, which is proving a bit of a challenge in some of the CARICOM states. It includes non-graduate nurses as well. Sports persons were in the original category of 5 persons, and of course that was a sensible step to take originally. The category now includes masons as well. So the category is expanding as time goes on. We have reached the stage, but what was always troubling, sir, was the issue of contingent rights granted to dependents and spouses of persons who had a right of entry to work in a CARICOM country that was a party to the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. And I think that it is section 239 of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, yes, section 239, which speaks towards member states undertaking to elaborate a protocol relating inter alia to electronic commerce, government procurement, treatment of goods produced in free zones, free circulation of goods in the Caribbean single market and economy region, and rights contingent on the establishment, provision of services and movement of capital in the community. And is that last proviso under Article 239 of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas that is the first subject, essentially, of this amendment to the Caribbean Communities Act, which we are debating tonight. This Act, amended Act, in fact, sir, speaks to the protocol to the treaty, effectively bringing into effect these contingent rights that, as I said, have proven a challenge for a decade and a half in terms of the ability of an individual who is a skilled CARICOM national and therefore has the right to work in another Caribbean country, but to move with his family, with his spouse, with his dependents. And obviously, you don't want to separate families, because family is an institutional background of any society, and therefore what we are doing tonight is very important in the advancement of our regionalism and our ability to attract qualified and skilled CARICOM nationals to Barbados, and to allow, of course, our nationals as well to go to other Caribbean countries to work as well. And this is part of whole globalization. We all know that when we were all colonies, before the early 1960s, there was a lot more freedom of movement of people than we have now. We know that Barbadians used to populate, for example, the police force and the teaching profession in the OECS countries, the now OECS countries, in Bermuda and other islands. Many of our citizens, our nationals, used to go to those countries and work for a while. Some came back and went into senior civil service positions, went into judgeships, became top professionals, and a lot based on the experience that they were able to gain in these other countries. Because no island, sir, no country can exist by itself, and it has to draw on the human and other resources of the experience of persons who lived, grew up, were citizens, whether citizens or visitors in other countries. And the first aspect of this amendment, therefore, sir, speaks to legislating a protocol on contingent rights in our country. The amendment, of course, sets out in preamble the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and international conventions on civil and political rights, United Nations conventions on the rights of the child and migrant workers, and Charter of Civil Society, sir, all of which impact on the whole philosophy of this provision. Having done that, sir, it speaks towards the definitions of spouse, and spouse, of course, has for the last 40 plus years in Barbados included common law unions, sir. So that is not a point of dispute today. And as we define it in Barbados, man and woman who cohabit for a period of not less than 5 years are recognized just as married as a man and woman who went in a church or went before a magistrate and were legally married. So there's no issue as to a common law spouse being part of the definition of spouse. The contingent rights, I will go through a few of them, but not all, allow the spouse now of a person who is a skilled national the right to leave and re-enter the host country, and the right to work in the host country without a work permit. In other words, if then a Trinidadian person who is a Trinidadian spouse, whether legally married or common law, of a CARICOM skilled national who comes to Barbados to work, comes with him or her, that individual can work in Barbados without a work permit. And this is all as well part, sir, of the concept of non-discrimination and national treatment, which is provided for in Articles 7 and 8 of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, whereby we cannot discriminate against CARICOM nationals, and we have to offer them most favored nation treatment, no less favorable than that accorded to nationals of non-CARICOM citizens. And therefore, we are bound by that. We have signed the agreement, and therefore it is incumbent on us to, as parliamentarians, to pass the law which effectively brings into force the treaty arrangements which we have entered into with our fellow CARICOM citizens, our fellow CARICOM states. One of the niggling issues as well related to dependence, because again, an individual who is moving from one CARICOM state to another as a skilled national would want their children with them, their minor children. And therefore, the protocol, which is part of this amended legislation, speaks to the right of a dependent child of a principal beneficiary resident in Barbados to access primary education on a non-discriminatory basis where and to the extent provided by the government of the host country. So in other words, we are legislatively committing our country here to offer to a child of someone who comes here as a skilled national to work access to our primary school education in the same way as any Barbadian child. Free school meals, free education, and the works. In terms then of the built-in agenda, sir, and the built-in agenda, and this was in fact agreed, I should say, at the Heads of Government Conference, which would have been signed last year at the Heads of Government in Montego Bay, Jamaica on the 6th of July. The built-in agenda, sir, and built-in agenda includes following potential rights which Barbados and other member states undertake to extend as contingent rights in a phased approach once agreed upon. And this includes the right of the spouse of the skilled national who has come to Barbados with him to in fact remain in Barbados following the termination of their marital relationship. So the fact that an individual may no longer be the spouse because they're divorced doesn't mean that they have to leave. They could remain in Barbados and work if they wish. The dependent child as well, sir, in other words, the child who is under 18, a minor of the CARICOM skilled national, can remain in Barbados on acquiring independent status subject to certain conditions, sir. that dependent child can also work in Barbados without a work permit until they attain the age of majority. And most importantly, sir, the right of that dependent child can access on a non-discriminatory basis where provided for by our government pre-primary school education. Remember, we dealt with primary school education earlier, but this would be pre-primary nursery school education, secondary school education, and uniforms, meals, books, and transportation in the same way as the Barbadian child can. And what this is saying, sir, is that the heads of government agreed and signed the protocol saying that this is a potential right which the member states agreed to undertake in a phased approach. But I can inform, sir, that the Cabinet of Barbados agreed in principle that we will go further than the signed protocol and extend to CARICOM citizens, children of CARICOM citizens and CARICOM citizens, secondary school education without them having to acquire student visas or pay tuition fees. And therefore, we are seeking to go further than the agreement of the heads. And wisely so, sir, as the Honorable Prime Minister has said, it is no use us having children in Barbados under age 18 or under age 16 not going to school simply because they are CARICOM citizens who might have to pay tuition fees, who can't afford paying tuition fees, because that child is potentially a child at risk, and a child, sir, who you as the top criminal lawyer you are, sir, may have to defend for some wrongdoing, some infraction, some clash or conflict with the criminal justice system because they are not accessing our educational system. And, sir, in our fight against crime in this country and lawlessness, conducted, sir, as we all know, these days, to a large extent between young persons, between 17 and 25 years of age, we want to minimize that possibility as much as possible. And therefore, Cabinet of Barbados has taken a decision in principle that such children will be able to access secondary school education in the same way, sir, as a Barbadian child can. Once they're in Barbados, sir, once they are child of a skilled national, child of a CARICOM citizen who is working here and who has some kind of status here. The built-in agenda, sir, also speaks to, again, the other major social service factor, I mean education and then health, sir, the right of the spouse or dependent of the principal beneficiary resident, the CARICOM skilled national, to access primary health care, again on a non-discriminatory basis. The same way how a Barbadian citizen can, sir, the spouse or the dependent of the CARICOM skilled national, we are saying, sir, that they have a potential right, and we are undertaking to extend as a contingent right in a phased approach that ability of them to access primary health care on a non-discriminatory basis to Barbadians. In subsect F, sir, we have placed in the bill the right of the principal beneficiary resident in Barbados, the spouse or the dependents, to access national scholarships or bursaries in the same manner that a Barbadian citizen can. And they have the right to import free of duties within 6 months after being granted the indefinite stay, their personal effects, a reasonable quantity of household effects commensurate with the size of the household, their motor car, and subject to our national regulations. In other words, we will reasonably allow them to bring into Barbados the personal effects that they require to have a reasonable quality of life, the motor vehicle that they had in the country, the personal effects, without having to pay duty. And again, sir, this makes good sense. It is similar, sir, if you think about it, to the facility that came into effect the last time the Barbados Labour Party was in office, whereby Barbadian citizens from over and away, and we know England, America, Canada mainly, returned nationals when they were returning to live in Barbados, in a lot of cases after they retired from their jobs in those developed countries. We started that facility, sir, to, I think it was called FERN, to allow them to return, to come back in with their personal effects, their motor cars, etc., free of duty. And that obviously facilitated their return to Barbados with their pounds and their US dollars and their Canadian dollars, and enhanced our community. Some areas in my constituency too, sir, I know in St. Philip as well, are majority populated by returned Barbadian nationals who would have been facilitated by a similar provision as to the one that is in this bill. The Article 9 of the amendment specifies that nothing in this protocol shall preclude a member state from granting to nationals of other member states rights more extensive than the contingent rights covered in the protocol, provided that such a grant is in accordance with the non-discrimination and the most favored nation treatment of Articles 7 and 8 of the revised Treaty of Chagarama. So a member state can go beyond what has been agreed to in the protocol. So essentially, that is what this amendment is about. So it is, as I said, effectively bringing into local legislation what the heads of government agreed to last year, July, at their conference in Jamaica, sir. And we know, sir, we all know that under our law, that a prime minister, a minister, can sign an agreement, regional agreement, international agreement, but it doesn't automatically become the law of the land until it is effectively brought to Parliament, and Parliament passes that legislation, and of course the head of state assents to that legislation. I'm obliged to you, sir.
Honourable Member.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be read a second time.
Honourable Member for St. James Central.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I take the opportunity to enter this debate early because of the fact that I am anxious to lend my support to the very erudite and scholarly presentation made by my friend, the member for St. James North. And I want, sir, to remove the quizzical look from the face of the leader of the opposition, who I suspect was struggling to follow some of that which was put before this House. Now, I want, sir, notwithstanding the very academic nature of the presentation made by my friend for St. James North, notwithstanding the very academic nature, sir, I think that we must place this matter of contingent rights within the context of the day-to-day current affairs, political, social, and economic reality of Barbados, first of all, and of the Caribbean, secondly. So that having established the esoteric aspect of this thing, as my friend has done, I think, sir, we must now bring this into a sharper type of political focus. And perhaps the best point of departure, sir, is the point on which the Honourable Member for St. James North ended, when he pointed out that it was in Jamaica last year, sir, in the month, I believe, of July, 6th of July 2018 at Montego Bay, this protocol on contingent rights is the protocol to the treaty, was signed. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, that is an excellent point of departure because it tells us a tale or two. In 2008, the government of Barbados changed. And the government of Barbados changed, sir, in the immediate aftermath of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas establishing the Caribbean community, including the single market and economy, sir, having been piloted through the parliaments of this region. And as we all know, he or she who serves as Prime Minister of Barbados is, in accordance with the mandate of the quasi-cabinet arrangement of CARICOM, the head of government with lead responsibility for the implementation of the single market and economy. And therefore, the Prime Minister of Barbados is, by definition, the Prime Minister who must steer and guide the region step by step through this process of integrating our economic market and our community. And Mr. Speaker, sir, it is a testimony to the extent of dereliction of duty. I put it no higher than that. Tempted though I am to describe it more fiercely. But it is a testimony, sir, to the extent of the dereliction of duty that the Democratic Labour Party would have gone through not one, but two prime ministers in the space of 10 years. And, sir, the protocol on contingent rights, which was part of the built-in agenda at Chapter 239 of the revised treaty, when it passed the House here and houses all across CARICOM, the built-in agenda, that which was built in and had to be continued, you know from day one that this must be carried on. This is the work, sir, that gives life and meaning to the integration. That built-in agenda, sir, was not only abandoned, but for 10 years, nothing happened with respect, sir, to the advancement of the fleshing out of contingent rights under this treaty. Now, my friend, the member for St. James North, touched by way of a glancing blow on that article. And it is an important thing for the House and by extension the country to understand and the records of Parliament to reflect what Article 239, the built-in agenda, is talking about. That member states, Mr. Speaker, sir, undertook to elaborate a protocol or protocols relating to, first of all, electronic commerce. Why electronic commerce, Mr. Speaker, sir? because we all knew that you could not realistically have a market or an economy, for that matter, in the 21st century in which you do not facilitate the members and the players within that economy to do commerce and to do business across borders electronically. Well, we all know, sir, that if you want to buy a pair of shoes nowadays, you're going on Amazon to look around. You want to buy a book, you're going on Amazon to look around. But for some strange reason, those who were charged with the continuity of CARICOM and the fleshing out of a market, sir, did not lead on this matter. I make the point that on the 6th of July 2018, having been elected only on the 24th day of May 2018, the Prime Minister of Barbados gave leadership to this matter and came back home from a meeting in Jamaica with a signed protocol on contingent rights. That is the point, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the country must understand. Beyond that, sir, the undertaking was to have government procurement. And we all know, especially in Barbados after the last decade, that this issue of government procurement, how government buys goods and services, and the context within which government buys goods and services, especially a context within which there is little or no corruption, preferably, no thieving, as the member for Christchurch West would put it very bluntly. That, Mr. Speaker, sir, is a critical part of any modern market economy. Nothing done, but it should not surprise anybody in this region that nothing was done by way of leadership given to the process by a Prime Minister of Barbados, because we all knew what was happening in Barbados by virtue of government procurement. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, the next issue of critical consideration was the treatment of goods procured in free zones and similar jurisdictions. The fourth one was the circulation of goods within the CSME. And again, Mr. Speaker, sir, that is kind of self-evident, because you have to have the goods circulating, and you must be in a position, sir, if you're going to have a marketplace, to have efficiencies built into the market and common rules, and you wanted to have a harmonized taxation code, and you wanted to have a harmonization, sir, of all the commercial regulations that we know exist in Barbados, but we wanted to have them replicated all around the region. And again, Mr. Speaker, sir, nothing done. But it is not only, and never was intended only to be, about capital. It was supposed to be about human beings. It was supposed to be about moving labor, Mr. Speaker, sir. For Barbados, we entered this arrangement not because we were keen on moving goods, because we all know that Barbados is not a major producer, and we don't trade in commodities in the way that Trinidad perhaps does, and Jamaica does, and others. Our strength, Mr. Speaker, sir, economically, has been the investment made year after year, and again rededicated to by the Barbados Labour Party within a few weeks of coming to office in May of 2018, to ensure that you make sure that free education at the university, that university education that was removed so cruelly by the Democratic Labour Party government, was reinstituted, so that we once again put our young people in a position where they can be skilled professionals and can sell their services across borders. That you, Mr. Speaker, sir, today, well, not today because you're here, but when you are not here, Mr. Speaker, sir, you have earned your living from time to time by practicing in Trinidad and Tobago. I know you have appeared before the courts in Trinidad and Tobago in your capacity as an attorney at law. As indeed, Mr. Speaker, sir, have I in the Eastern Caribbean. And Mr. Speaker, sir, there are other professionals, countless professionals across this country, whether they be doctors, engineers, etc., who earn their living by selling their services across borders. And Mr. Speaker, the protocol on contingent rights is about that. Now, I want, sir, to be very clear, because as I said, the honourable member was very esoteric in his presentation, and that sometimes literally means that those who are uninitiated may struggle to follow clearly. Not so with me, sir. I want to break it down. The contingent rights, Sir Rich, and national and his or her spouse and immediate dependents are entitled, sir, are contingent on the exercise by the principal beneficiary of the right of establishment. Now, I, sir, because I'm a university graduate, or you, I'm entitled to be treated if we chose to go and take up residence in another CARICOM member state. By virtue of having the university degree, we are entitled to be treated as the principal beneficiary. One of the things that this government has also done is to preside over, in very short period of time, the expansion of the categories of those persons so that it goes beyond the journalists, the sportsmen, the university graduates. As the honorable member said, we are now into the realm, sir, where domestics can move cross-border, so that the housekeeper, those people, sir, who are cruelly and sometimes contemptuously throughout the chronicles of history referred to as the maid, is now in a position alongside the university degree holder to move across border to sell their services. The mason, if he has a qualification which is designed or described at the regional level as a, what's the regional qualification for masons? CVQ, Community Vocational Qualification. Those persons, sir, are allowed to sell their services across border, alongside the university degree holder who might be a PhD, doctor, so-and-so, so-and-so. But Mr. Man, who otherwise was scornfully looked at, sir, because he is only a mason or carpenter or plumber or welder, all of those persons now, sir, once they hold a community vocational qualification, are able to move. But let us tell the whole story, Mr. Speaker, sir, because we are not in a Sunday school. We are not at the primary school being given an esoteric discussion so that you help people to understand only the academic side of the thing. The practical reality in Barbados, Mr. Speaker, sir, was that when Jamaica was doing national vocational qualifications to prepare their people, and then across this region, Trinidad was doing it as well. Do you know, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the records of this Parliament will reveal that I came here, sir, in 2015 in a debate on the Economic Partnership Agreement and had to point to the then Education Minister that there were about 4 or 5 countries in the Caribbean who had an established and an advanced program in national vocational qualifications for their citizens. And those persons, having reached that level, were then entitled to move regionally once they then completed the community vocational qualification. But Barbados, sir, had not started. That Jamaica had theirs going, sir, since 2009. But Barbados in 2015 could not get it off the ground, Mr. Speaker, sir. So that, again, the politics in this matter is that the people of this country who at that time were going through economic turmoil at the hands of a government that was fumbling and bungling the economic development of this country, even though the rest of the region was setting an example to the Democratic Labour Party of how you could use international trade rules to facilitate the opportunity for upward social and economic advancement of the people, the Democratic Labour Party, sir, could not even follow that script laid out for them that a blind man on a trotting horse could see. Jamaica, Trinidad, and others doing it, but we couldn't get it done. And along comes a lady who is now Prime Minister of Barbados. And within weeks, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are able to have a signed protocol and be in this Parliament debating that which could not have been brought to the Parliament, sir, for over 10 years. So I make no apology, Mr. Speaker, sir, for not treating to this debate as though it is a matter of academic rigor, because it impacts on the practical realities of life in my constituency. And when we are talking about contingent rights, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have to understand, sir, that these rights are contingent on the establishment of the provision of services and the movement of capital within the Caribbean community, CARICOM community. The movement of capital, the provision of services, that is what this was created for, and Barbados was elegantly positioned, because we really were the financial capital of the region at the time. And we had a 53% trading majority with the Eastern Caribbean in terms of the export and provision of services across borders. That was the comparative and competitive advantage that Barbados held. And it was brought to its knees and rendered worthy of nothing by 10 years of disregard and neglect by the last administration. And Mr. Speaker, sir, it is also about understanding that the right of establishment is indexed, and the right of establishment, sir, is the right to establish a business. That right is indexed to the right to provide services. It is linked to the right to move capital. It is linked to the right of recognized skilled nationals to seek employment. What this country should have been hearing during the course of the 10 years is discussions of how Barbadians who found it hard in Barbados could have established a business. For argument's sake, Mr. Speaker, sir, as Weed said when we were in, and the leader of the opposition was part of a cabinet of which I was part, and the Attorney General of Barbados was part, and the member for St. Thomas was part, so he knows that we said it. When there was a fishing dispute with Trinidad and Tobago, we made the point then that there was nothing that stopped or prohibited a Barbadian fisherman from joining with 2 or 3 others and going to Tobago in order to establish a company in Tobago under the rights of establishment of the treaty. And that under those rights of establishment, they were entitled, sir, to open their own fishing business and to fish in Trinidad's waters as the equivalent of a Tobagonian fisherman would. But that is not the level of discourse or approach to economic development that we heard in Barbados during the course of the last 10 years. And what now we have to do as a new government is to help our people to understand how enforceable rights can operate to be exercisable and to be effective. And that is what this debate is about, Mr. Speaker, sir. The Honourable Member for St. James North, when he piloted this bill, pointed us to the fact that under Articles 7 and 8 of the revised treaty, we have to treat, there's a principle of reciprocity that runs throughout the treaty. That principle of reciprocity is like a vein that flows through the body of the treaty. And so therefore, as I treat a CARICOM member, a citizen of CARICOM in my country, then a Barbadian must be treated in their country. And there can be no discrimination on the basis of nationality. So that if you wanted to protect yourself as a Jamaican government against Barbadians coming in, that is not allowed, because you can't do it, you can't discriminate on the basis of what country you come from. And once you have that principle of fairness so eruditely explained by the Honourable Member for St. James North, you come to understand, Mr. Speaker, sir, how the borders of the country are then opened to trade. The borders of the country are open for me as a Barbadian to go anywhere within the countries of CARICOM. How much ever there are, 13 of them, I believe, or 14. And then I set up my business in the same way that if I come from in Christchurch or I come from in Paynes Bay, St. James, I have a right to set up a business in Bridgetown in Barbados without anybody hindering me, because I am a born and bred Bajan. I can set up a business anywhere I want in my country. Is the land of my birth. So what we say to the region is the region of your birth, and you can set up a business anywhere you want in the region once you are a citizen of CARICOM. And then by extension of that, we ask the question, but how is the business to be run? So therefore, the treaty, the revised treaty, Mr. Speaker, sir, makes provision for me as the entrepreneur setting up my business, and we now know that it is not just for the big boys anymore, because that was the criticism made by ignorant people. There was a member for St. John who became a prime minister who could not see beyond the fact that at the time when it began, this was university graduates and so on. He couldn't see that the day would dawn as is today, where if I am a housekeeper, and I have some entrepreneurial skills as a housekeeper, I can band together 20 or 30 others with similar experience, and I can go down to St. Lucia or go in St. Vincent, leave Barbados, and go there and set up a business under the rights of establishment. And I can carry with me, Mr. Speaker, sir, the key people who give technical life to my business, the accountant, the manager, the supervisor. I have a right to take those people with me under the rights of establishment so that my business can be looked after, because obviously it can't be in the two places at one time, here and there. So the business has to be given life and meaning. And that is what this is about. And it can't work, sir, unless you have contingent rights which say that the person who has gone across the water to work either under the rights of establishment in a company or in a business, or alternatively gone across the water to work as a professional or as an individual providing a service, but you have to be leaving Barbados and living in Dominica for a year or 2 years. You can't expect you to leave your child behind, because daddy can't just disappear from the child's life. You can't expect to leave your wife behind, because you would get horned. You have to move with your family, Mr. Speaker, sir. These are some of the basic realities. And so therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, what the revised treaty is what the rights are allowing us to do is to make sure that we move with those persons who are our loved ones, our dependents, our family members. And they must be in a position, Mr. Speaker, sir, to get work too. They must be given some of the basic amenities of life, like access to housing opportunities. You can't have them come into the country and then be told, well, I am not giving you the land in order to get a house to live in. They must be given an opportunity to educate the child that comes across the water with mommy and daddy. So they must be given access to educational opportunities. They must be given access to health care. And what we as Barbadians must understand is that contrary to the ignorance that was put abroad by the Democratic Labour Party before 2008 and can still be heard from the lips of some of the ignoramus in that political institution today, sir, it isn't just a one-way street. Ignoramus is one. If you have a party full of them, it's ignoramus. And it isn't a one-way street, Mr. Speaker, sir. It isn't a one-way street.
I remember that's a Latin derivative.
It is.
You're aware of that?
It is.
I remember you're aware of that.
You're familiar with the etymology.
That's a Latin derivative.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Octopus, octopi. You're with me. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, you have to be in a position, sir, where those persons are given an opportunity to make the thing we call a single market and economy a lived reality. And it can't be a lived reality unless you make provision for health care. You can't have a lived reality unless you make provision for the educational things. You can't have a lived reality, Mr. Speaker, sir, unless you have housing provided. And those are the issues, sir, that bedeviled this region and caused member states of the region to say, I am not ready for this yet. But it is an idea whose time has come, especially now that we see that the United States of America no longer is welcoming our people up there, but would rather see us be nowhere there again. that they practice a form of discrimination under the guise of making America great again. And so therefore, sir, what we now have to do is to build out our region and recognize the true potential that this region has. And that, sir, is the magic behind this contingent rights thing. It is about a lived reality for the people of the Caribbean, and that Barbadians now have equal opportunity to have housing, access to education for their children and their spouses, access to health care for their children and their spouses, wheresoever they choose to go to work within CARICOM once they're moving under the regime of the single market and economy. And that, sir, means that it works for Barbadians. And that is why we have to pass this piece of legislation today. Not because we so keen about people coming here only, but we have to make sure that when Barbadians go abroad, they are treated fairly and the reciprocity is there. And that we all in this together, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I want to thank you, sir, for being tolerant with me. I feel that this is not a matter of academic discourse. This is about the pulse of the region, sir. This is about a civilization that has been suppressed and repressed and oppressed for hundreds of years. And we are now breathing free, Mr. Speaker, sir, because of the technical work done by intellectuals within this region. This is born and bred from home, without anybody help. And it is for us, sir, to make it work. And I am proud to be part of a party and part of a government led by a prime minister, sir, who seized the opportunity immediately as she held office to make sure that she stamped her authority on this region and brought everybody along after this issue had been allowed to languish and nearly died for the last 10 years of Democratic Labour Party misrule. I am obliged to you, sir.
Honourable Member for St. James North.
Mr. Speaker, I see that the House is clearly in full agreement with the bill, including the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, who, after all, was in the Ministry of Immigration and was part of the government, as the Honourable Member for St. James Central said, that would have brought this whole issue to the fore. And yes, the Honourable Member for St. James Central has put it within the real context. We know, yes, that there are some on the other side who would disagree with this whole thrust to try to bring our Caribbean region closer. After all, they were the proponents of the policy, ever so welcome, wait for a call, even though the head proponent of that was born not even in the Caribbean, but in England, and only came to Barbados when he was 9 years old. So I really didn't understand. None of us, no reasonable person could have understood how he adopted that role. But certainly, sir, in wrapping up, I would also wish to associate my commendation of our Honourable Prime Minister in the leadership role that she has taken on this issue, fully recognizing that this is important to not only our country but to the region, to bring us closer together, to settle on a protocol of contingent rights. As you look through the history of this matter, sir, you see a lot of dillying and dallying on this issue. In the 10 years, 4 months that the Democratic Labour Party was in office, you see a reluctance to bring this into effect, even though from the start, Barbados was the leader in this area. Whoever is the Prime Minister of Barbados, as the Honourable Member for St. James Central said, is the leader on CARICOM. And CARICOM, the enterprise, the reality of the movement was set back because of a failure of leadership, not only at the domestic level, but at a regional level as well, of the two persons, jointly and equally, who became prime ministers of Barbados when the Democratic Labour Party was last in office. Thankfully, sir, we now have a prime minister who immediately 1 month after becoming prime minister took leadership on this issue. And we all know that at the conference at which this protocol was signed, came into effect in Montego Bay, our prime minister is the one who, even though by far the most recent prime minister of a CARICOM state, took the leadership role on this and on other issues at that conference. And therefore, sir, I'm happy to move that this bill be read a third time? Second time, sir.
Question is that this bill be read a second time. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. Honorable member for St. James North.
I beg to move, sir, that Your Honor now leave the chair and that the House resolve itself into committee to further consider this bill.
Question is that the Speaker do leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
This House is now in committee.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Clause 1 stand part.
Question is that Clause 1 stand par. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Chair, I beg to move that Clause 2 stand part.
Second. Question is that Clause 2 stand par. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 3.
Chair, I beg to move that Clause 3 stand part.
Question is that Clause 3 stand par. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Schedule.
I beg to move, Chair, that the schedule be the schedule to the bill.
Question is that the schedule be the schedule to the bill. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Chair, I beg to move that you do now report to His Honor the Speaker the passing of one bill in committee.
Question is that I now report to the... Somebody saying it. Question is that I now report to the Honorable Speaker the passing of one bill in committee. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
The chairman of committee has reported the passing of one bill in committee.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be read a third time.
Second. Question is that this bill be read a third time. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
Your Honor, I beg to move that this bill do now pass and be cited as the Caribbean Community Amendment Bill 2019.
Question is that this bill be passed and so cited. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This bill is so passed and so cited.
Of government notices.
Honourable Member City of Bridgetown.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill 2019, Proceeds and Instrumentalities of Crime Bill 2019, a resolution to grant the sum of $123,173,390 from the Consolidated Fund and place it at the disposal of the government to supplement the estimates 2018-2019, and a resolution to grant the sum of $5,209,636 from the Consolidated Fund and place it at the disposal of the government to supplement the estimates 2018-2019.
We commit all first readings of bills. Same to me.
Honourable Member City of Bridgetown.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill 2019, Proceeds and Instrumentalities of Crime Bill 2019, resolution to grant, sorry, that these bills be read a first time.
Make second that, sir.
Question is that the aforementioned bill be read the first time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
We commit to public business. Order number 8, sir. In the name of the Honorable Minister in the Ministry of Finance, to move the second reading of the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill 2019.
Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to be very brief. As you're aware, sir, this proposed amendment with respect to the adjustment for the introduction of the ability for the government to tax online was announced in the budget of June of 2018, and certainly one of the many things that a lot of persons seem to have been asking about is when will the government bring this specific piece of legislation to bring effect to the proposal. And the hour is late, and I must, sir, give you and the House the assurance that as we move forward with respect to the evolution of taxation, that the government understands, quite frankly, that the economy, as it evolves, sir, that rather than just focus on the traditional parts of the economy, that we have to focus as well on those parts of the economy that are taking place in the digital space. And so, as we have done with respect to the adjustments with respect to corporation tax, in terms of the convergence, the world is moving in a direction, sir, where digitization has led to a lot of economic activity, as I mentioned, taking place in the digital space. And the introduction of this bill, sir, seeks to put the government's ability to collect taxes in the digital space on the forefront, because as we certainly anticipate, sir, that the traditional part of the economy will continue as is, but there will be, sir, going forward, a greater proportion in terms of the overall economic activity that we certainly expect to take place online. But this specific intervention, sir, speaks to our ability to collect taxes that are due and owing for goods and services consumed in Barbados, and our ability to be able to collect said taxes globally, irrespective, sir, of irrespective of the platform upon which these services may be ultimately delivered and paid for. And so the objects and reasons, sir, speaks to the collection of value-added tax on goods and services purchased online from a vendor outside Barbados, where goods and services are for consumption in Barbados. The collection or transmission of value-added tax on goods and services purchased online from local vendors by persons in Barbados where goods and services are for consumption in Barbados, and the transaction is processed outside of Barbados. And the collection and transmission of value-added taxes on goods and services purchased online from local vendors by persons outside Barbados where the goods and services are for consumption in Barbados. And sir, many persons have been asking about the various questions relating to how this tax will be administered. And the one thing that persons must be clear in their mind, sir, in Barbados, and certainly many have asked about, for example, educational services that their children may be undertaking overseas, and that they might pay with a credit card, or they're paying the rents and those kinds of things, sir. I want to give you an assurance of this house, sir, that those goods and those services are not consumed in Barbados. And so therefore, those many parents can rest comfortably knowing that, as is the case in Barbados with respect to educational services, which do not attract VAT, that policy will continue with respect to the consumption of education services overseas. But the reality is, sir, is that so long as the good or the service is not consumed in Barbados, this particular provision will not, this amendment, sorry, will not apply. Now, sir, we see this as an integral step, sir, as we move forward with respect to broadening the tax base, and the amendments as set out in the arrangement of sections speaks to the amendment to section 2 of Cap 87, the insertion of Part 3A, insertion of Part 4A, and amendment to section 103. But very quickly, sir, the definitions speak to what consumption in Barbados means, what online, how that's defined. Certainly, sir, as it relates to the payment processor, because it's critical to appreciate that there are goods and services, sir, that are paid for, where the payment is actually processed outside of Barbados. And because the payment is processed outside of Barbados, the Barbados Revenue Authority, as currently set up, does not have the mechanism in place to be able to collect said taxes. And so therefore, the introduction and the definition of the tax collection agent within the online space to be able to deal with not just the internet service providers, but certainly as it relates to the payment processors, so that any good or service that is to be consumed in Barbados, that taxes are now levied on, this particular amendment will give the government the opportunity, sir, to actually be able to collect said taxes. And so much of this, sir, speaks to the technical infrastructure and the framework that's required to collect said taxes. And so to the extent that we are here this evening is just to make sure, sir, that we give the assurance to the country, on the one hand, that global taxation is moving in a direction, sir, where more and more tax policy will be driven by transactions, and to the extent that we certainly are in a position where we do not want to keep going directly to persons by way of direct taxation. And so as the economy shifts, sir, we are seeking to make sure that there's a rebalancing with respect to the incidence of taxation, and this certainly allows us the capability of being able to do such. Now, sir, Part 3A, speaks to the rules relating to supplies being sold online. But essentially, sir, what this is going to do is to allow the Barbados Revenue Authority to be able to delegate the responsibility for the technical intervention, sir, to be able to go within the digital space and in a real sense, sir, sweep all of the transactions related to goods and services that are currently being consumed in Barbados, and allow the government of Barbados to be in a position, one, to know for the first time, in a real sense, what is the space or the number of transactions actually taking place as it relates to Barbados, what is being processed for goods and services consumed in Barbados, such that we would be able to collect those revenues that are currently not being collected with respect to goods and services consumed in Barbados. And so, sir, these, Part 4A speaks to the collection of tax on imported goods and services purchased online. And the critical thing to appreciate, sir, is that once the tax has been paid online, when the good crosses the border physically, sir, because this only applies to goods, there will be no instance of double taxation taking place. And I want to make sure that the people of Barbados understand that paying for the tax online, when it comes to the border, the information sharing set up at the border will be such that all that will be required on the part of customs, sir, will be just to validate that what you said the good is, that it actually appears within the customs declaration, such that we can validate, sir, that the appropriate tariffs would have been applied appropriately. But no double taxation, sir, will be levied on this. And I think that's very important for persons to understand that the government is not out to tax people twice. And so the technological intervention, sir, along with along with the information sharing at the border will allow us, sir, to be able to do that. And so, sir, this speaks to an innovation with respect to our ability to collect taxes. And so I want to very briefly, sir, indicate that this really puts the government of Barbados at the forefront with respect to tax policy and tax administration. And once again, sir, as was the case, as indicated in the previous debate, we are leading on these matters, sir, and the government of Barbados is breaking new ground in this area. And I want to say, sir, that the Ministry of Finance looks forward to the implementation of this measure, such that we are able to provide to Barbadians a level of tax certainty that they so badly need. And sir, with those few words, I wish to beg that this bill be read a second time.
Question is that this bill be read a second time. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that you do not leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill.
Question is that the Speaker do leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
This House is now in committee.
Clause 1.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Clause 1 stand part.
Question is that Clause 1 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 2.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Clause 2 stand part.
Beg to second that.
Question is that Clause 2 stand par. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. All honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 3.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Clause 3 stand part.
Beg to second that.
Question is that Clause 3 stand par. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. All honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 4.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Clause 4 stand part.
Beg to second that.
Question is that Clause 4 stand par. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. All honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 5.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Clause 5 stand part.
Question is that Clause 5 stand par. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. All honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that you do not report to His Honour the Speaker the passing of one bill in committee.
Question is, I now report to the Honourable Speaker the passing of one bill in committee. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. All honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Chairman of committees has reported the passing of one bill in committee.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be read a third time.
Question is that this bill be read a third time. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Miss, I know. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be now passed and cited as the Value-Added Tax Amendment Act 2019.
Question is that this bill be so passed and so cited. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. This bill is so passed and so cited.
I don't have the other resolution. The other two. There were two more resolutions. Anyhow. Yeah. There were. Pedro has them.
Honourable for City of Bridgetown.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the House now resolve itself into standing Finance Committee to consider the granting of sums of money for the work in this island.
Question is that the House resolve itself into standing Finance Committee. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
This House is now in standing Finance Committee.
As we are in committee, we are going to remain in committee and do order number 12, which has just been called, and then order 15A and 15B. In the name of the Honourable Minister in the Ministry of Finance, to move the passing of a resolution to grant the sum of $1,794,868 from the Consolidated Fund and to place it at the disposal of the government to supplement the estimates 2018 to 2019 as shown in the supplementary estimates number 8, 2018 to 2019, which form the schedule to the resolution.
You gotta bring that up.
Yeah. No, this is the first submenu. Sure, just give me a minute, please. Make sure I get this here right. Head 28, Ministry of Home Affairs, in the amount of $205,046. Head 28, Ministry of Home Affairs.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Head 28 stand part.
Second, please.
Question is that head 28 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 31, Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology, in the amount of $2,236,250.
To move that Head 38 stand part.
Question is that head 38 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye.
Yes, sir.
All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 34, Ministry of Finance, Economic Affairs and Investment, in the amount of $353,572.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Head 34 stand part.
Question is that head 34 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Order number 15B, ma'am, which is supplementary number 10, head 32. Let me go over that, ma'am. 15B, in the name of the Honorable Minister in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, to move the passing of a resolution to grant the sum of $5,209,636 from the Consolidated Fund and to place it at the disposal of the government to supplement the estimates 2018 to 2019 as shown in the supplementary estimates number 10, 2018 to 2019, which form the schedule to the resolution. Head 32, Ministry of Environment and National Beautification, in the amount of $5,209,636.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Head 32 stand part.
Question is that head 32 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
A, in the name of the Honorable Minister in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, to move the passing of a resolution to grant the sum of $123,173,390 from the Consolidated Fund and to place it at the disposal of the government to supplement the estimates 2018 to 2019 as shown in the supplementary 2018 to 2019, which form the schedule to the resolution. Head 12, Parliament, in the amount of $1,648,162.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Head 12 stand part.
Question is that head 12 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Madam, I didn't have enough time to calculate the figures for the other heads, so I would just call the head. Head 13, Prime Minister's Office. Head 13, Prime Minister's Office.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Head 13 stand part.
Question is that head 13 stand par. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 28, Ministry of Home Affairs.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that head 28 stand part. What?
Normally, it's just, I just say the amount. What do you want? I don't know. I had nothing to calculate. Right? Madam Chair, Head 28, Ministry of. Well, we probably should go back to 12. Then. We probably go back to 12. Chair 30. 100. Madam Chair, we're going to start the supplementary from the beginning. The total is $123,173,390. Head 12, Parliament, in the amount of $1,648,162.
Madam Chair, the provision under this head provides for the operating expenditure for the Management Commission of Parliament, and I beg to move that head 12 stand part.
Question is, a seconder?
Second, please.
Question is that head 12 stand par. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 13, Prime Minister's Office. Have enough time to calculate the figures, right?
Madam Chairman, I know that the hour is very late, but I'm going to lead in here by example tonight. And members of the government have to speak to the Parliament for the sums for which they're asking the taxpayers for. It is not good enough for us simply to move that the head stand part. And I ask us, therefore, to dig deep. It is 11:05. We've been here for over 13 hours, but it was not promised to us that it would be easy. The amount that we're asking the House for under Prime Minister's Office relates to grant to public institutions for $2.1 million. More importantly, for $4 million for Invest Barbados. We would have spent a lot of time in this honorable chamber changing up over 14 pieces of legislation in order to be able to redirect the purpose of the focus of our international business sector. Because of these substantive changes, the government now has to embark on an aggressive marketing and promotion program to be able to promote the new sectors that we have with the converged tax rate. We know that we will have limited fiscal space next year, so we have front-loaded the marketing in this year where we have a little more elbow room, and hence you will see that Invest Barbados will return next year to the amount that was originally voted in the estimates for this year. Similarly, with the Urban Development Commission, there is some work to be done to be able to move forward on the projects that we promised. We have limited space next year. We believe that we can do it and get those projects across the urban corridor going. But more importantly, you will see under UDC and RDC, the Ministry of Youth Affairs has asked for a project called Building Blocks, which will be across every constituency in the country. We have and are hoping that we can support it because of the lateness in the fiscal year and because of the need to be able to engage our young people. We believe that given the nature of the projects that the Ministry of Youth Affairs has put forward to the Ministry of Finance, that the executing agency in both respects will be the Urban Development Commission and the Rural Development Commission, both of which will receive $1.5 million. I think that the Minister of Youth Affairs has been extensive in his communication to the public of Barbados with these visits that he's done across different constituencies, engaging with the young persons. And we can't do everything for everybody, and we can't be there across the board, but we can certainly do some. And we appreciate the need for urgent intervention at times such as this, as the country goes through other issues, and we feel that we can be there. So the UDC will receive some funds to this extent. Against this background, Madam Chair, I beg to move that Head 13 stand part, please.
Question is that head 13 stand par. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 28, Ministry of Home Affairs.
Madam Chair, under this head falls Program 40, which relates to personal emoluments, direction and policy formulation services. Also Program 202, firefighting services, personal emoluments, again, $7,003. And then for the Prisons Department, again, personal emoluments of $10,337. And then the bigger ones under Program 244, Chair, Police Services, the funds are still with the Ministry of Home Affairs until the end of this financial year. Maintenance of property, petrol and cleaning of stations, $373,000. Operating expenses of $61,000. Maintenance of machinery and equipment of $5,639,640, and computer software for the police, $10,000. And then for general police services as well, including vehicles of $120,000. All of this to, of course, buttress the police force, make them more readily able to defend the people of Barbados and the national security of Barbados. The total, Madam Chair, is $6,372,698. And I beg to move that Head 28 stand part.
Question is that Head 28 stand part. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. All honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Madam Chair, Head 30, Attorney General, in the amount of $2,227,516.
Madam Chair, the Attorney General's office will be in the hot seat on Monday. And so I will have the occasion then to elaborate in a fulsome way on the program. But let me just say that the amount of money that is being sought in supplementary here is for the completion of the works at the Supreme Court and White Park Road. We have committed that normal service will be resumed by the 1st of April, but there are a number of things that have had to have been added to the program, such as industrial cleaning and so on, and therefore this amount of money is going to be required so as to allow a transition back to the Supreme Court. It includes the additional judges' chambers and so on. I beg to move that this head stand part.
Sorry, this is Head 30?
Head 30.
30. Question is that Head 30 stand part. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. All honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Madam, Head 31, Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology, in the amount of $111,430.
Madam Chair, the sums provided under Head 31 represent supplementary for salaries for the personnel of the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, as well as employees' contributions under this head. So with that, I beg to move that head 31 stand part.
Question is that head 31 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 32, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in the amount of $2.2 million. Move.
The sum of $2,200,000 is being voted for in this chamber for the purchase of equipment for our mission in the United Kingdom.
Like to second that.
What did we second? Last stand part.
60. Yeah. Madam Chair, I beg to move that head 32 stand part.
Like to second that.
Question is that head 32 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 34, Ministry of Finance, Economic Affairs and Investment, in the amount of $28,656,403.
Madam Chairman, the amounts here are for diverse reasons. To begin with, we have an amount that we have to provide for LIAT. LIAT, as you may be aware, the government of Barbados is the largest shareholder in LIAT, and LIAT has, in fact, a number of difficulties at the moment, and it requires an urgent equity injection from the shareholders, for which the Barbados government's responsibility would be to put in just about 3.23 million of that. In addition, we have intimated that there are a number of routes across the airline that may need minimum revenue guarantees if they are to continue to fly. In other words, when we look at the load factor and when we look at the fare, that those routes can only be sustainable if they reach a certain threshold. If it falls below that threshold, then we are saying that governments will need to maintain some form of minimum revenue guarantee in order to continue to assure that those routes will remain. Barbados's amount for the first 6 months will be $1.68 million to ensure that those routes that are just marginally below that may need minimum revenue, we've estimated to be about that, and hence the amount for LIAT is about 4.9. Under professional services, we have an amount that includes an amount to both the debt advisors and the legal advisors, as well as to the people who did the convergence work for the international business and tax study that, as I said, came to an end in December last year. We have a further amount of $2.2 million, which goes to BRA in order to be able to buy the scanners that are necessary. This is not the big container scanner, but the other smaller scanners that are necessary at our ports of entry, both the airport and the seaport, which is part of the overall plan. Regrettably, Madam Chair, and I'm sure the AG will speak to this on Monday, we inherited a situation where our borders were as porous, regrettably, as they could be, with the exception of one scanner in the Bridgetown port that has been working periodically. The other major scanner has been broken down for about 4 or 5 years, but I have every confidence, as I said, that the Attorney General will confront these issues on Monday so that we begin to understand that we didn't just wake up and find things coming into our shores overnight, but we never provided for them. The Barbados Port Authority, on a separate matter, will be engaging in purchasing the major container scanners, and loan arrangements are being put in place for them at the moment, but that goes beyond the scope of this particular request tonight. Similarly, ma'am, there's another $1 million that's necessary for us to be able to purchase 18 laptop computers. We also have an amount in here for under professional services for the consultants to be able to implement for Customs Asecutor World. And let me just quickly put this in context for the benefit of members and the Leader of the Opposition. Barbados was the first country in the early part of the 21st century to implement Asecutor++. We are now, regrettably, the last country in the Caribbean and among the last in the world to implement Asecutor World. It therefore means that the efficiencies that we would anticipate to see in our customs systems are not there, in the same way that we are using a 2007 customs tariff when the world has gone on to 212 and now 217, and Barbados is still operating with a customs tariff that is literally more than a decade old. In very real sense, ma'am, Customs represents that department that has visibly and very much been shaken by the last lost decade. And we are feeling it both in terms of the efficiency of our revenue collection as well as with respect to the security issues that the country is facing. It cannot continue, and the funds therefore here across the board, both with respect to customs and BRA, are intended to strengthen our capacity significantly. There is also a huge amount of $12.5 million that we inherited from the last government that they thought and committed to doing for the pensioners of British American Insurance Company, and they never brought it to book. And it is now our responsibility to make sure that these persons do not suffer any further, and that this $12.5 million will provide for the pensions of the employees of British American. The hour is late, and I will have an opportunity during the course of this month, March, to address the issue of BICO and CLICO in a more fulsome fashion, and I give the House that assurance. But suffice it to say, this is why we have maintained from day one that there ought to have been appropriate forensic audits with the capacity to trace the funds, because the government of Barbados is carrying the liability of almost $500 million or more dollars, $500 and something million for both of these entities, with assets that are probably worth less than $100 million. Similarly, the amount for COMI requires the amount to be bridged $1.5 million with respect to Kensington Oval Management, Inc. And as you know, the government of Barbados at the moment is still the majority, is the entity that runs it, but we are hoping to enter discussions with the Barbados Cricket Association so as to be able to allow for a transfer of the functioning of this body in the majority manner to them, even though the government will retain a minority presence with COMI. But we believe it is time for us to extricate ourselves from it, and also to minimize the subvention that we are prepared to put in it as part of the trimming of the expenses that we have to carry. So with those few words, ma'am, I beg to move that head 34 stand part.
Question is that head 34 stand part?
34.
Yeah, head 34 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 35, Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, in the amount of $1,666,941.
Madam Chair, I wish to indicate the amounts here for the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, $166,941 to go to help to supplement the salaries for staff and for personal emoluments. A grant to the tune of $1,027,287 for the Child Care Board, because that board has got quite a few children and there is need for maintenance and so to the system. And another amount, ma'am, for the National Assistance Board, ensuring that our elderly are well cared for, to the tune of $450,000, making it the full amount for this supplementary, ma'am, $1,666,904. Ma'am, I beg to move that head 35 stand part.
Question is that head 35 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 36, Ministry of Energy and Water Resources, in the amount of $2 million.
Madam Chair, this $2 million is in relation to the purchase of emergency generators for the Barbados Water Authority for the pumping stations. As you recall, when we had the last hurricane season, we were facing those disasters. We had a number of meetings where we evaluated the preparedness of various agencies of government to meet any eventuality. It became apparent that the Barbados Water Authority had no backup capacity in case the power went down to handle a number of the pumping stations. And this was deemed pretty much as a crisis situation, because we can't be simply dependent on the electricity from the grid to power the pumping stations, because if we had a major climatic event like a hurricane and the Barbados latent power was down for a significant period of time, then we could not distribute water to those in need. So it was deemed necessary as an emergency measure to purchase generators so that strategic pumping stations had generation capacity over and above that on the grid. And this $2 million is to finally purchase those generators, so we have those in place before the next hurricane season to protect the people of Barbados and to guarantee the integrity of the supply of water by the Barbados Water Authority. I beg to move that head 36 stand part.
Question is that head 36 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 75, Ministry of Housing, Lands and Rural Development, in the amount of $2,843,481.
Start by saying what?
Oh, I think promise.
The amounts here relate under Rural Development Commission to the building blocks program to which I referred earlier for 1.5 million plus another 513,647 for RDC. And then there's some amounts for emoluments, as you've seen throughout these estimates, small amounts to be able to top up, 29,334 for land registry. The employer's contribution of $500 for the HIV/AIDS and prevention program, and the amount of 30,000 for the general ministry. Similarly, there's an amount for 750,000 for the National Housing Corporation, and then an amount for 20,000 for the emoluments for land and property acquisition and management program. I beg to move, ma'am, with that head 75 stand part, please.
Question is that head 75 stand part. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. All honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 80, Ministry of Transport, Works and Maintenance, in the amount of $21,129,585.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This is made up really of two small amounts of personal emoluments from our section for highway construction and maintenance for $120,000, and then another personal emoluments part for licensing for the inspection of vehicles. But the biggest part of this, Madam Chair, is $20,742,000.12, which really is a subsidy to the Transport Board. As you know, we've had significant challenges with the Transport Board, significant challenges with bus availability, and the ability to keep as many buses on the road as we can. We had problems with the storm that recently had passed through Kirk, and we're still working to get our buses back up to the higher availability that we'd like to have it at. In addition, it also speaks to be able to pay our drivers and also to be able to keep the buses on the road in terms of the diesel and keep the maintenance of the buses going for the Transport Board. The Transport Board has a myriad of problems, Madam Chair, and really left by the previous administration, to the point that they have not bought buses. Last bus, I believe, was bought 12 years ago, and the buses that we do have were not properly maintained. And it's a sad situation that we're having to continually put more and more effort into parts to keep these old diesel buses going, and we look forward to the day that we can get our brand new electric buses on the road to be able to transport the people of Barbados in a good and efficient manner. And I beg to move that this head stand part.
Question is that head, is it 70?
80.
80, stand part. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. All honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
This is Environment. Head 82, Ministry of Environment and National Beautification, in the amount of $12,033. Right?
Honourable member for the city.
Madam, this sum of money is to provide the ministry with the funds to deal with NIS contributions, and it's not really a significant sum, so I beg that this head stand part.
Question is that head 82 stand part. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. All honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 83, Ministry of Agriculture and Fuel Security, in the amount of $16,514,144.
Madam Chair, The sums being asked for under Head 83, 1.1 million is for payment with respect to the BAMC in terms of the voluntary and retrenched workers, as well as vacation pay in lieu for that organization. And the remaining 15.4 million represents the government's contribution with respect to the reaping of the 2019 sugar crop, as well as payments with respect to the ECRIS program that would fall due post October 1st, 2018. Therefore, I beg to move that Head 83 stand part.
Question is that Head 83 stand part. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. All honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
86, Ministry of Health and Wellness, in the amount of $11.5 million.
$1.5 million of the sum indicated is for other personal emoluments to the psychiatric hospital, and the other $10 million, that is for the Queen Elizabeth Hospital Accident and Emergency Department. You would have recalled that in the early days of this Barbados Labour Party government, the Honourable Minister of Finance, Economic Affairs and Investment had allocated $11 million to this project. So far, $1 million, the sum of $1 million has been disbursed, pending the submission of the designs and so on for the new Accident and Emergency Department. We have all of those now in place, and we are ready to continue with the work at the Accident and Emergency Department to the tune of $10 million. And with those few remarks, I beg that Head 86 stand part.
Question is that Head 86 stand part. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. All honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 87, Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, in the amount of $4,070,353.
The hour is late, as I said, but it is important just to say what is motivating this government at this stage. It is absolutely clear to us that there has been a total neglect of our schools in the last decade, but in particular the secondary schools. The government then, the last government, built one or two and did significant improvements for one or two, but the majority remained unnoticed. Building at Lodge School, however nice it may appear and however magnificent that campus is, has left schools like Grantley Adams School and Parkinson School and others literally completely neglected. And quite frankly, I am ashamed to walk on some of these premises and to believe that this is where we want our children to grow up and to learn and to be in an environment which is nurturing. We cannot do all at once, but we do believe that we have a duty to be able to change out some of the conditions under which some of them are functioning in, particularly at those schools that have been neglected for a long time. If you go into some of the classrooms, the dark aluminum, the heavy aluminum louvers literally cast a darkness on the classroom. The pathways are not paved and by extension hold dirt and remain dirty for a longer period of time than if they were paved and can then be easily washed down by the workers at the schools. And the one thing that perhaps more than any other across all of the secondary schools, and between this year and the next financial year we'll go to the primary schools, is the bathrooms. The bathrooms are in an awful state. And if a government cannot find the money to be able to change out the state of the bathrooms across our schools for our children, then something is fundamentally wrong as we seek to spend over $3 billion here. So I'm asking this honorable House to agree that we provide for the Ministry of Education. Cabinet has agreed. First, a sum of $2 million to be able to change out in this next year our toilets and to industrial type toilets like you would more see in a facility that has heavy traffic, and to be able to recognize that people need to have a better environment within which to function and to know that they matter, such that we want to be able to ensure and ask of them also to help us in the effort of keeping them in a certain sanitary state, as well as to ensure that there is no vandalism as far as possible with respect to the public sanitary facilities. And then the other $2 million goes to being able to help, I think it's about 4 schools, to be able to help upgrade the conditions under which the students operate in certain blocks. But this is just the beginning of a program. We cannot do all, I want to repeat myself, we cannot do all at once, but we believe we have a moral obligation to start the process and to make our children feel and understand that the environment within which they function is important. It's the same approach that I believe the Minister of Maritime Affairs and Blue Economy has taken to the fish markets. We're trying to take it to a number of public facilities. It's the same motivation as to why we're building a new accident and emergency department, because we feel that people remaining there while they're waiting for their family who are patients within the department should also have somewhere decent to be able to sit and commodious to be able to reflect as they wait on what is the outcome of the condition of their family. So these things matter, and the government therefore is spending its money to ensure that we can make these changes. Clearly, it will also help with stimulating some economic activity on the ground, but far more than anything, and the government has already shown its hand by reducing the, by announcing the amendments to the Act so as to we can ensure that there will be smaller contractors who can benefit, smaller plumbers in this case, or masons, who can benefit from some of this school work across the country. I'm obliged to beg to move, ma'am, that head 87 stand part. Thank you.
Question is that head 87 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 89, Ministry of Small Business, Entrepreneurship and Commerce, in the amount of $5,179,505.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the amount of funds that we are asking this lower chamber to approve falls squarely with the Trust Loan Fund program that this government started in November last year. And indeed, at the end of January, we would have disbursed some 370 loans at a value of $1.6 million to small businesses. This is startup capital that we are providing for small businesses to excite this economy from the bottom up, to provide the much needed stimulus for economic development within this economy as it relates to small businesses. But, Madam Chair, the demand for these loans have more than tripled. We have, at the end of February, we have some pending 1,500 loans. And if we look at the value of those loans, it is close to roughly $6 million. And we pledge to the people of this country, to the small businesses and entrepreneurs, that we will provide annually $10 million. So this amount here is just to top up what we have placed thus far and to make sure that we have sufficient funds for the demand that we have seen. And with those words, Madam Chair, I beg to move that Head 89 stand par.
Question is that Head 89 stand par. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 90, Ministry of Creative Economy, Culture and Sports, in the amount of $6,893,522.
Madam Chair, whereas in the past, the entities under the Ministry of the Creative Economy, Culture and Sports, such as the National Cultural Foundation and the National Sports Council, would have seen as agencies that really represented, in one instance, recreation, and in the other, the disciplines of things like dance and acting and these sort of things. We are now beginning to look at expanding what these entities do and what their function as part of creating the new national consciousness in one sense and identity in another. Being that as it may, one of the important things that we're going to be undertaking this year and going into the next financial year is massive training programs for our young people. I'm sure that everyone in here is aware of the unfortunate incidents that are taking place with our young people, and we believe that through these massive training exercises that this in some way will help to reduce some of the incidents that you find. So as stated before, we know that this is a late hour. $3 million of this money goes to the National Cultural Foundation, the rest to the National Sports Council, and I do now beg that Head 90 stand par.
Question is that Head 90 stand par. All honorable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that you report to His Honor the Speaker the passing of 3 money resolutions in Standing Finance Committee.
Question is that I do now report to the Honorable Speaker the passing of 1 bill and money 3 bills and money resolutions. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
The 9 will be 123, and the 10 will be 5 million. The 10 is 15B, 123 is 15A, and the 1 million 7 submarine is submarine number 8. 3, 8, 9, and 10. 3, he said 3.
The chairman of committees has reported the passing of 3 resolutions in the Standing Finance Committee. First, second, I agreed.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be read the first time. The resolution, sorry.
Questions that the resolution be read here first time. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the resolutions be read the second time.
Question is that the resolution be read a second time. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the resolutions be agreed.
question is that the resolutions be agreed to. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, that brings us to the end of government business for the day. And I beg to move the suspension of the Honorable Chamber until Monday at 10 a.m., Monday the 4th of March at 10 a.m. in the forenoon.
The year's a quarter gone up. The year's a quarter gone.
Question is that this honorable chamber be suspended until the 4th day of March at 10 a.m. in the forenoon. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This honorable chamber stands suspended until the 4th day of March at 10 a.m. in the forenoon.
But we should make it
They've
clear.
always had that policy.
I know the policy was there,
Yeah,
but it was
but
adhered in the breach, but it wasn't a law. So going forward, you would need that.